Heya everyone, it's me, Tisha, Tisha at Her Life's Angle podcast. Have a great time listening. Welcome everyone to Her Life's Angle. I'm Tisha, and this is my first ever podcast. In this podcast, we'll be talking about the idea behind the name that I chose for my YouTube channel and this podcast, Her Life's Angle. So everyone, since this is my very first podcast, I would like you to know me a little bit and how I am as a person. So yeah, let's get started. So once again, I'm Tisha and I'm 17 years old. I just turned 17 this year, and yeah, for this intro, I'll be telling you guys a little something about myself and what I do and what my personality is, I guess. But yeah, so yeah, that's my name and that's my age. I'm an extrovert, I believe, because a lot of times I really get friendly around people, and I get to blend in with like almost all of the groups. Well, not all of them, but most of the particular groups that has this kind of personality or this kind of personality, something like that. And then for my personality, yeah, I'm a social butterfly, and I really like to talk a lot, but of course I know how to be quiet at times. And yeah, so the things that I usually do on like a daily routine is I actually study and I volunteer at the church here in Alabang. It's in New Life, Alabang, if you guys are familiar with that. I volunteer there as as many things. I'm a person in media, which do a lot of like photography and video things. I just recently joined there. And then I also sing, so I'm part of the worship team, and I'm currently a worship leader in the age bracket of 7 and up. So like that's for like 7 and 9 years old, 10 to 12 years old, and 13 and above, like teenagers. Those like certain areas I'm in. I'm actually very active in church when it comes to volunteering, and it's something that I enjoy doing as a 17 years old. So yeah, so with obviously those daily routine that I just said, well, not just that, I study, I volunteer in church, and then of course at like weekdays I study, and then I spend time with my family, do some chores here in the house. And then when it comes to like weekends or something like that, I dedicate my time to just going to church, listening to the word, and volunteering at the same time. So yeah, with that being said, obviously I am a born again Christian. That is my religion. And yeah, so let's go and move on to the things that I like doing. So first on my list, of course, I like singing. I like singing a lot. I've been singing since I was a kid. And what else? I also know how to play some instruments, but my main instrument is guitar. And I like to compose. I've actually composed like songs, but of course I haven't like released them in a platform or something. I just make them to like be able to maybe release it someday, but I'm just going to for now really practice more before I could move on to something else. But yeah, next one is I like reading now, but before I'm not really into reading, but eventually I was like recently I was into books, like reading books, and I was like um and I was like inspired too, because what I wanted to be when I grow up is become a psychologist. So when I heard that the strand that I took for senior high was like more into reading and writing and analyzing stuff, I eventually became like this person who reads books. So yeah, that's good also, because I find myself really improve when it comes really improve in reading and writing and analyzing stuff, and it helped me out with some of the activities or things that I need to do for school, or maybe in life in general, and analyzing life in general, right? So yeah, other than singing, playing, composing songs, or reading a book, I like writing poems, because that's something that helped me out when I was struggling with some certain things in life, that helped me out to kind of like release some things that I have in mind. So like when you're overthinking and stuff like that, I kind of like just put it into like words and make a poem, something like that. So yeah, other than those things, what else? I like biking. I also like taking videos and editing them, like sometimes. And I like making this certain like videos that has different angles, and that's why I'm going to pass through this introduction of mine and move on to what this podcast is really all about. So yeah, that's something. Is that little? There's actually a lot of things that I've said about myself, but I hope you enjoyed listening to that. So let's move on to the purpose of this podcast. So lately I've been thinking of making my own YouTube channel. And then in school we had this subject that was that gave us an activity, or actually something to do, and our teacher or our professor said that we have to make a website and we have to put contents there, and one of the content I'm going to put there is this podcast. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you the idea, or then like what's the idea of the name behind this like podcast, Her Life's Angle. So basically in that sentence, her is obviously me and how I view things in a different perspective. And I included the word angle, and it's because I like taking videos. As I said earlier, I like taking videos. I like it and like a different angles and stuff like that. So when it comes to, I guess, vlogging something about, like, let's say you're vlogging for a day, and of course you're gonna set up your camera on like a different angle to make it to make it look more interesting for the watchers to see. So that's why I kind of like made that phrase for a YouTube channel name, and as long as for this podcast, because if ever I'm going to continue this podcast, it would be fun because I could actually tell you guys the other perspectives that I have on like a certain question or like a certain situation. So I think that's why I made the her life's angle phrase for the podcast, because of those reasons. So yeah, I wouldn't make this podcast really long, but maybe at the next episode I'll be creating another podcast that will have like this different type of questions that I'll have to answer. And yeah, that's the purpose of it, to give the perspective that I have, for this certain question or something like that. But yeah, as you can see, my voice is kind of like, I don't know what you call, but I have colds right now, so bear with my voice. It's just like this, but I still enjoyed making this podcast for the content that I need for that website. And yeah, I hope to know you guys more, and I hope you guys engage also in this podcast. You can follow me on this social media my social media platforms. I'll be putting it in the description of this podcast. So yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I hope you enjoy. It's nice to meet you guys. Actually, not meet, or it's nice to definitely talk to you guys, even though you are just listening to this podcast. Again, guys, thank you for listening to this audio or this podcast, and I hope to see you on my next episodes in Her Life's Angle. Bye.